Thank you for listening to the Speaking Out on Sex Abuse podcast with hosts Clara and Jimmy Hinton. If you're new to the podcast, please look us up on your favorite podcast app, subscribe, like, and share so that you never miss an episode. If you'd like to further support us, visit patreon.com/speakingout and check out the different rewards. You'll find exclusive rewards if you sign up as a patron of the podcast. Thank you for your support, and let's get into the show. Welcome to this week's podcast. As always, we thank our patrons who make the podcast possible, and we have some news for you. Some of you may not like the news very well. Our patrons know by now, but after over 5 years of podcasting, and how many episodes? We're on, this is number 249. We are going to take a pause, a break in podcasting, and we're working on other projects. So
yes, we are.
We're not like cashing out and leaving Advocacy or anything like that, but we had to make a painful decision, and we just decided that after 5 years, we're going to pass the baton to other people who are doing it and doing it well, and we wanted to take a little break. We've been pedaling hard for a while.
Yes. And like we said to our patrons in a closed session, there are some really capable people now. When we first started podcasting, it was pretty scarce out there. There was a skeleton crew, really. Now there's a full team, full force of people working every day, working hard, working diligently, and working great.
Yeah.
And we are just at that point where we feel, kind of like when a teacher promotes their students, those students are ready to take over, and we are going to go in a slightly different direction for a while.
I think it's always a good thing, too, when you work yourself out of a job. That was always something you told me growing up. Make sure that you get to a point where you work yourself out of a job.
Right.
If you've done that, you've done
done
well.
a great. You have.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And we do. I honestly and truthfully feel like there are just so many good podcasts out there, and it's not that we feel like we're competing with anybody. It's nothing like that. We just said after 5 years, it's really hard to maintain week after week, and we do it weekly. So some people do it every 2 weeks. Some people do a podcast once a month. That's probably more feasible, honestly, because when you're talking about the subject, it's not the most pleasant to talk about or to prepare for, to find guests for. It's just a big challenge.
Right. And it's hard to go over the same material, let's face it, but present it in a new and different way each time.
Yeah.
I think that's been a big challenge this past 2 years, really, is how to do that. And there are capable people who are now focusing on much smaller niches out there, and they can focus on that. And there are wonderful podcasts to tune into. I can think of a dozen probably right offhand that are going on now, and it's wonderful to say that. Absolutely.
Yeah, there are definitely really good ones, and
Right.
a lot that focus on survivors. That was never really our that wasn't meant to be our forte.
Right.
We wanted to focus on prevention, and so I feel like for the most part, I think we've stuck to that really well.
We have, and actually, when we first began, we really focused hard on bringing awareness to the fact that there was abuse going on, because really we were caught by surprise in our own family situation, and come to find out, the more people we talked to, the more we realized there was such a silence going on. So, awareness and prevention has been our thing, and I think we accomplished that.
I do too.
In a very good way.
I do too. And we got a lot of feedback from multiple people, a lot of our patrons, and it was really cool. It was really heartwarming and definitely humbling. Excuse me. And they said, we want you guys to know that this really has changed our life. Oh man, allergies are getting me. Goodness sakes.
I know. Yes.
So, yeah, they said that the information was very valuable, that they learned a lot, that they go back and re-listen to episodes, and we do have some exclusive material that was for our patrons only, and we're going to pass that on to them. So that they can have that for, forever,
Right.
really.
Yes.
But we did trainings that were highly specialized. We did a tier where we did a book club where we went through every chapter of my book and had live Zoom discussions on each chapter.
I think that's probably one of my favorite. That
It
and
was good.
the training. Yes.
Yeah.
The
Very good
my
conversations.
favorite. Yes. Very, very good. Very
Yeah.
well attended. Lots of back and forth talk, conversing. It was excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah.
I mean, we have no regrets. We
Absolutely
actually we've really enjoyed doing that. And to build an audience and to get to know people, it's been a good journey. It's been very good. And we're not leaving with our tail between our legs. We're not leaving disappointed. We both feel very good about this.
I feel real good about it.
And
yes.
we're doing other things. Yeah. So I will point you to the work that Granny is doing.
I love being called Granny.
So
it makes me feel young.
So Granny over here, she has a website called silentgriefsupport.com. And she's doing a ton of work in the area of grief, specifically child loss, grief pertaining to child loss. And that began, I was thinking like 20 years ago, and you said, no, it's been over 30 years.
Over 30 years ago, yes.
That she wrote her first book, and she has many books that she's written, all very good, but it began with Silent Grief. And
sure did.
That book is still on sale.
Still out there.
Still chugging away.
It is, yeah.
It's kind of a timeless book.
It is. It's interesting for me to follow that journey because that began with me, myself, and I. That's before blogging wasn't even a word.
Yeah.
I began a website with the help of one of my other sons, and not knowing anything about technology, computers, nothing, before all of this was common as it is now. And it grew and grew and grew. There's a need out there for parents and families of loss to have help. And that's where my main focus is going to be. And Jimmy's right here helping me with that.
I am helping
wonderful.
Granny.
Yes.
So she... Granny would never say this, but I'll say it because it's hard to talk about yourself. It's not so hard to talk about other people and the good work that they do. But she's been doing this for over 30 years and just pouring so much time. And it is definitely a labor of love. This is where her heart is. This is what she's really good at. And like you said, blogs weren't the thing back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, no.
And so her site started, the original silentgrief.com started as a chat board, and that grew so quickly that it actually crashed the server.
Yes, it did.
And fortunately, those were able to be, the chats were able to be recovered, but hundreds of thousands of chat conversations of people just pouring their hearts out. And if I'm not mistaken, you answered probably 85+%
hours
of every single
hours
chat
a day answering those. It was,
And so she
hours a day.
Never took a dime from that. So actually, all of these years to this day, it's costing her money to do this. So I think people don't realize that it's not like you just, type your thoughts in a Word document and kind of put it out there. Like, you have to pay, Yeah, like
Well,
I own a website, and I know it gets expensive. And your
it's
website's probably
it
triple
is
what it
very
cost her on my
expensive.
website.
Yeah. For
So,
emails are no longer free. The hosting fee is terribly expensive. The domain name, all of that adds up. And
yeah,
yeah, it gets quite. I unfortunately have people that like to hack into that site for whatever
yeah.
reason.
I get it too.
Yeah, and
I
I
get
have to
spammed all the
pay to
time.
have mine kept free of that because anything is so triggering to parents, and I don't want that to ever happen. So, yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah,
It
it is.
does. Yeah,
But
it
she's
does.
never complained about that ever. I've never once heard her complain that she's paying. In fact, she does it very happily. But it does cost her money, and so I've been helping her to find a way to set up something kind of like what we did on this podcast, where we used Patreon.com. And that was I love that
Yeah,
platform
that
for
was
this. I
great.
think
Yes,
the
it was
community that we built of
wonderful.
patrons and the different
It
tiers,
was
the
wonderful.
different rewards
Yes,
that we were able to offer, I thought was pretty seamless. It
it
really
was.
was. So she's doing a similar thing for her website, her blogs, and also her Facebook page, which now is almost 300,000 people
Right.
strong,
Yeah.
and that's incredible.
It
And
is. It is.
you
That
know,
just further says there is a need. And and
huge
actually,
need.
when I started out, I was among only two others that were doing that. Now there are like with the abuse, there are many, many, many sites that still that are dealing with child loss or grief, but the need is so big that the numbers are out there. They just show that there's a need.
Yeah,
People are grieving hard.
and I'm pretty sure, I don't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think your Facebook page is the largest Facebook page.
There's one other. There's one that's
So
bigger.
there's one that's bigger. So you're
Yeah,
the second biggest
yeah.
on, excuse me,
Facebook.
on
Yeah,
grief and child
right.
loss, on
Yes,
all of Facebook
right.
in the world.
Yeah,
And I think that's
which it's pretty.
incredible
It is.
that it shows your dedication,
It
and it
is.
shows that
Yeah.
people are connecting with you, and people are hurting, and
People are hurting very badly. Yeah,
there's a lot of pain in this
that
world.
grief is timeless. It doesn't
Yeah.
end. Yeah. So
So
yes.
so we wanted to help set her up to keep doing what she's already doing, but to focus it a little bit more and provide different. Similar to Patreon, we're using a different platform called Buy Me a Coffee, and it's just a little bit, I think, probably more tailored to what you want to do.
Right.
But there are different tiers, similar to Patreon.com, and then those tiers allow more intimate access to her, because that's the tough thing when you're
Right.
dealing with. I mean, I had thousands of people. You have hundreds of thousands of people. And so when people send emails and they're desperate and
I
and
can't
they're
keep up with
hurting,
that. Yeah, I
you don't even have
can't.
time to read them,
No.
let alone to respond to them.
No.
And so this kind of allows you to pull some of those people for the people who really genuinely want to connect with
Right.
you. That they pay a small monthly fee. Kind of, it's a membership. I mean, it's not a fee; it's a membership. But they're getting something in return.
Right.
They're not just getting your time,
No.
and that's what I like
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
about these different
I do
platforms.
too.
Is it's not that they're paying to have your time. They're paying to get different rewards back,
Right.
and to get something of
More.
incredible value.
More. Yes.
So like we
More
did the
value.
trainings here,
Yes.
we did
Right.
the live Zooms, we did we did the Q&A sessions.
Right.
So
Excuse me.
it's contagious, the allergies.
I need to get my medicine in me. I have had multiple requests for just death by suicide. Well, I haven't been able to focus on just that, but that will be in one of my special sessions.
Yeah. So, I mean, an example of this, she still has the archives of her original site,
Yeah,
even though it's
which is
shut
really
down.
neat.
She
Yeah.
still has the archives
Yeah.
of those, I mean, hundreds of thousands of conversations. And
Excuse me.
she
Ah,
she also has written just tons. I mean, think of decades worth of blog
articles
posts,
and yes.
articles,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
email blasts through your newsletter,
Right.
and so all of that stuff is archived, and it's just kind of sitting there,
Waiting to
not
be
out there, and
used.
it's
Right.
right.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
what we want to do is kind of package that up and do daily inspirational
Right. Which is so
readings for
needed.
people where you
Right.
actually
So
read them
needed.
instead
Yes.
of
Right.
just putting them out there as a
Right.
blog. You'll be reading those, and and then
Connecting in that
I
way.
love the gardening one because that's your
I
passion.
do
That's what you
too.
love to do.
Just spent 2 hours in my garden. Well, it is a memorial garden, special for my son Mike, who died 8 years ago now, May 22nd. And that is one of the most healing things that I can do. In fact, this morning, that's all I kept thinking was how healing my time out there in the garden was before coming into work.
Yeah.
It was wonderful.
So literally in all of the warm months, every single time we pull up her driveway, she's out in the garden and she's
I
working.
am.
And
Yes, I
she's
am.
in the flower garden. She's and her place is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
And yeah, I mean it truly is like
I
something
pulled a
out
lot
of
of
a movie.
weeds up this morning, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful.
And so for her, for you, that's what brings you healing,
Right.
And
It
so,
is.
one of the tiers is a once a week live, where you're actually gardening
garden.
and talking
Right.
to your followers on
Right.
Buy Me a Coffee and kind of interacting with them. So
I'm excited about that. I'm
Yeah.
truly excited.
So definitely check it out. I will post to that, and we're not like trying to peddle anything here. We're just telling you like this is the chapter of her life that
Right.
needs to happen. This is what she is good at doing, and she's ready to dedicate more time to that. And I've been helping and kind of setting
Jimmy
this up.
has been
and
helping a lot. Whew, photography, technology,
It's a lot
all
of work.
those things. Yeah, it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
A lot. Yes. Which I don't have the knowledge that he has. He's got the knowledge here.
Yeah, I
so.
think a lot of people think you just kind of. Why don't you write more articles? Why don't you just do this? Like we hear
Doesn't
that a lot.
happen that way, yeah.
Why don't you do an episode on that? And
Yeah.
you're like, well, it doesn't really work that way. Like
No,
there's so
it's
much work
a little
to
more
pump
involved,
into that.
right? A little more.
Yeah. So,
Yes.
that's kind of what we're working on, and so we are very excited about that. And the only way to make that happen was to free up some time. We both work full time. Does not even begin to describe our schedules. We work, and I have three young kids, and they're into sports and
Very active young
lots
children.
of activities. I just
Yes.
spent the morning doing a picnic, a
Yeah.
graduation picnic for my son who's moving up to
Yeah.
3rd grade. And it's just we're constantly doing things with our kids, which is also
It's hard
where
to
we need be.
focus on one thing when you love doing 5 other things.
Mm-hmm.
But we had to make the decision. We're solid with it. We're good with it. We hope that you will understand, and we hope that you will join us on our new platform. Actually, everyone grieves.
Yeah.
That's one thing I found that's
Yes.
universal. You may not be grieving the loss of a child, but everyone grieves some type of loss. So
Yeah, for
we all
sure.
need help with that.
And then the advocacy work still goes on. So I've backed out quite a bit because pre-COVID, I was globetrotting all over the place, and then COVID brought all the travel to a grinding halt,
Right.
and then that gave me a little bit of time to reflect a little bit, and I was like, you know what, like I don't really like having little kids and just always
Right.
being away,
Right.
So
Well, for your wife also, it just isn't good.
exactly.
Right.
So I cut the travel out, which has been fantastic, and I'm still doing things. I'm still definitely involved. In fact, on June 5th, we'll be in Harrisburg.
Yes, we will.
I'm getting together with the rest of the cast from Sins of the Amish. So if you don't know, I was one of the cast for Sins of the Amish. Even though I'm not Amish, somehow I made the cut.
That is so exciting. It really is, and what a humbling honor for you.
Yeah, it was a good experience
in that way. Yes.
So that's on Peacock TV. It's a 2-episode series, and I think there are rumors about doing another.
I saw that.
Another run at it. So,
saw that.
So at any rate, the whole cast of Sins of the Amish is getting together. That was by former Speaker Mark Rossi, Speaker of the House. I was actually contacted by his secretary, and she said, "Is there any way that you could get me in touch with the cast of Sins of the Amish?" And I was like, "Sure,
sure.
No problem." And so she told me what they were doing and what they were putting together. So Mark Rossi, who's now a state rep again, he was Speaker of the House. He handed the gavel over, and he's back being a representative of the House. But he's written legislation, actually a couple different pieces of legislation that pertains to statute of limitations in Pennsylvania.
Right.
And both, I think he's written 2 different laws, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Both of those have passed the House almost unanimously, definitely by a majority. But then it gets to the Senate and it stalls out. So they wanted to kind of do one last push.
I think this might do it.
Get the attention of the Senate.
Really great. Yeah.
And actually, if you remember, it passed the Senate last year.
I do remember.
And then there was a technicality.
I remember that
in the paperwork,
so well.
the way that it was
yes.
filed by somebody who I don't remember if it was.
There was a misfiling.
Trying to remember what the position was, but it was when Governor Wolf was still governor, and
it fell by the wayside.
And so that law completely fell flat. So finally, the irony is, after over 20 years of trying to get the Senate to pass legislation, it finally passed.
And then there was a glitch.
And then there was a technicality in the way the paperwork is filed, and they had to scrap it. So, we're back to square one.
Right. But I really am hopeful.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful.
So we are going to get together and
we'll keep you posted
storm
on
Harrisburg.
that. Right. Keep everyone posted.
Yeah, it'll be good.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Quite an amazing time.
So with that, I think we'll wrap it. We're going to do one more episode in June, just because it would be an absolute sin to end on episode 249
I know.
and not make it to
That's
250.
exactly right. We have to do 250.
So we will be doing an episode 250. Yes. But we wanted to express our deep felt appreciation to all of our listeners. Some of you have been with us from episode 1. We've had many people tell us they've listened to every single episode, which is
that's pretty incredible.
Blows my mind.
It really is. Yes. Thank you so much.
We are very thankful.
Thank you.
And it's been an honor. It's been a pleasure, and I'm sure you've not heard the last from us.
Right. Oh, for sure.
So with that said, thank you for tuning in.
Yes, thank you so much.
I can say it one more time.
Yeah,
we will catch you next
time.
episode.
Oh, yeah.
All right. We'll see y'all.
Thanks again for listening to today's episode. A special thank you to our patrons who make this podcast possible. Please help us get the word out by searching for the Speaking Out on Sex Abuse podcast in your favorite podcast app. Be sure to hit subscribe and rate the show. Please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a patron and check out the rewards our patrons receive.